every piece that I make has a different set of steps that I take. After I'm finished making a sketch, I'll usually look at the artwork and the situation of the piece to try to assess what I need to do, whether it's a rig or if it's just some frame by frame animation. With this drawing in particular, as I started creating it, I realized that for me, it would be the easiest thing to just make a rig. I have Oz here from my show clocked out, and I wanted to show these characters in their natural environment. So I have Oz here currently sleeping on the job, which is not uncharacteristic for this character. He's in the window of the restaurant that he works at, and this is a screen grab from a Blender 3D model that I created previously. So on top of a screen grab of that Blender model, I then went into Procreate and drew this piece that you see here. So how I usually decide what I need to do next after this step is looking at this piece, like literally looking at it and saying what needs to be done here. So I know, for example, the animation that I want to have, the body, this part right here is going to be staying stationary. The head is going to move slightly, but the main source of movement within this piece is going to be the mouth. The mouth is where most of the action is going to be happening here. So I know that with this piece, I really want to focus on how can I get that mouth to be the central focus. Everything else needs to just kind of stand still. So the head's going to be the animated part and the body's going to be kind of sitting still. From there, it becomes a process of rigging the character and rigging this face to be something that I'm able to animate with. So it's a very light rig. It's not something where I'm trying to have controls or different things like that. It's really going to be a open and shut kind of animation here where it's just essentially snoring. So on the screen, you'll see how I'm rigging the mouth to have the mouth shape do majority of the work of the animation, as opposed to trying to physically animate lips and going for more of a cutout animation style here, as the mouth is doing majority of the animation here. So here we have where I'm currently at with the rig. Oz is sleeping peacefully, as you can see here, and the mouth shape is doing majority of the heavy lifting here. As the mouth shape moves from one side of the mouth to the other, it starts putting things that are underneath in frame. So this might be a little frightening if I do, but I'll show you what it looks like when the mouth shape is not on. So like I said, a little bit frightening, but this is what it looks like underneath all the things. So the teeth are moving slightly, but the mouth shape is doing majority of the work here. And that mouth shape is basically a layer mask. So as it's moving and shaping, it is doing all the animation for me. I'm not really doing anything past just moving the circular shape and then having it be opened or closed depending on if he's breathing in or exhaling. The mouth shape is essentially a window to the mouth. It's the same as if we were animating mouth shapes or lips here. It is really just trying to show that this character is in the middle of an action. And what I talked about before in regards to having something that is stationary versus when it's in motion, you can see this arm here is just a stationary piece. It is not connected to the head at all. So as the head moves, the arm is not also moving. So if we actually get technical with it, let me pause this animation and I open up the nodes. Let's see, the arm is over here. And while it's above all the other drawings here, it is not connected to that higher head shape. So like while this head shape can move on its own, if I really wanted it to, the arm is not a part of that process. And that's how I rig my characters. I rig them based on needs as opposed to just making rigs just to make rigs. This one doesn't need a rig other than what we have here. I will be going in and showing how I'm going to be doing more of this rest of the body, but for right now, this is the only parts that need to be animated. I may animate the arm, just a little bit of a swing motion. So as he inhales, it goes back a little bit, and exhales, you get the idea. But not necessary for me to animate every single part of this character. The eyes don't need to be going up and down. The hair doesn't need to be blowing in the wind. It's all extra. It's all things that would just add to the time of it, as opposed to just he's breathing. Let's show that he's at least, alive here. Now that I have the full animation completed, I'm going to export this and put it into Blender to finish it up. As I'm importing this, I'm still mentally also thinking about any kind of potential struggles that could come from this. So I know that that arm that's hanging over, I want to be hanging outside of the window. And in my mind already, I know that I'm going to have to compensate for figuring out how to make that happen. I'm not sure if it's going to work according to plan, so I might actually have to separate the two. So I might have to have the main part of him as one PNG sequence and the arm as another PNG sequence, and then using the illusion of in camera to be able to have them stacked on top of each other. We'll see if I run into that, but I already know and mentally a solution for what I could encounter. So now I'm going to import that PNG sequence that I just talked about into Blender. Here I have my scene that I have already created. I have also imported the PNG sequence to the 3D set. I have this running in EV engine, and you can already see that this is looking amazing already. Not to be biased, but the camera here is looking great. The character in this space is also looking like it belongs there. So now the next step is putting him behind the counter and seeing how all these elements pull together. So let's do that. So I have it currently locked in on him. We'll put him behind the counter, and we'll revert back to the camera view here as I'm continuing to adjust this. And yeah, it does look like I'm going to have to add in a separate layer for the arm to have it swing over top of the windowsill. So let's do that. Let's actually bring this out more. With this selected, actually let's go to the actual object shader so that I can change this from a single image to an animated sequence. So let's take file 1 through 70 and open. So now if we go back to where we were previously and loop through, yes, now we actually have Oz in a loop. So you'll see him yawning as he is in the scene. So then let's grab that arm again so we can see how all this looks together. I'm going to duplicate this layer, and now I'm going to put that arm on this transparent plane. That arm in now, I'm going to place it in front of Oz. We're going to bring it out, and then we're going to use the perspective of the camera to try to get it as close as we can. Now we have the arm hanging out of the frame, which is what we were wanting here. So now let's see if there's any discrepancies as we move forward in the animation. It looks like the whole entire time the arm is staying where we need it to, which is perfect. So let's take this arm and we'll add all the frames to it. Now that all the frames are in, all I have to do now is just hit render, and this is finished.